Film is a language that explains the narrative which relates to culture and context. The film 13, directed by Catherine Hardwicke, is a cultural commentary on girlhood in an emerging technological society. The film follows the main character Tracy, who is a 13-year-old 7th grader trying to find herself in the midst of her parents' divorce. Tracy makes friends with the supporting character Evie, who is considered the sexiest girl at their middle school. Evie introduces Tracy to a world of drugs, boys, and lying. 13 reflects on the themes of coming of age as well as the culture of the early 2000s. It uses elements of realism through its dialogue and precise characterization. The early 2000s was the introduction of a new millennia. America experienced a huge cultural shift after the attack on the World Trade Center, the start of the war on Iraq, and the emergence of social media. Teenagers at this time not only had to understand their newly protruding ego, like everyone else had to at that age, but also try to understand the dark complexities of the world. The first minute of the film is future Tracy and Evie in Tracy's room getting high off huffing gas.
I'm serious, I can't feel anything. Hit me. Oh. I can't do it harder. Ow. I can't feel anything, this is so hot. I hear this little wah, wah, wah.
This abrupt foreshadowing is done to inform the viewer on what Tracy is and what she will become. After Tracy comes home from school, Tracy tries to read her mother a poem she wrote.
He was crippled, but only his body was cracked. It's not simple, nor is it an easy matter to explain. Let's just leave it at that, she says.
The poem foreshadows Tracy's later revealed struggle with self-image, self-harm, and depression. Of course, Tracy's mother doesn't know how to respond to this heavy poem and is ignorant of the deep issues her daughter is facing. Tracy forms a type of girl crush on this girl Evie at school, who wears dark clothing, has piercings, and is undoubtedly gorgeous, as she is admired by nearly every guy at school.
Nice socks.
Tracy gets called a Cabbage Patch Kid at lunch for her childish clothes, and this sly comment changes the trajectory of her path. I have to add that I really like how the film makes it so that one comment completely changes Tracy's attitude and completely changes what she wants, because that is very realistic in bullying. The next day at school, Tracy wears her new clothes, which is a cropped shirt with wings on it, low-rise jeans, Converse shoes, and chunky bracelets. Tracy approaches Evie, and Evie instantly acknowledges this cool style, as Tracy trying desperately to be her friend. The editing in this scene is distinct and a memorable part of the film. This editing sequence was made to make the audience understand what these girls viewed as initially important: their clothes. Their main form of self-expression and the way they communicated on if they were in each other's league or not. 13 has one of the strongest screenplays that revolve around teenage communication. One of the reasons the script and dialogue has prominent elements of realism is because 13-year-old Nikki Reed, the actress who plays the supporting character Evie, co-wrote the script. Most coming-of-age films create young characters who are two-dimensional and not very dynamic. All there usually is to them is that they have hormones, they want to lose their virginity before college, and they make awkward jokes that no real teenager would actually say. 13 emphasizes the fact that these characters are real. The casting is on point because the actors in the film were real middle schoolers who actually chose their own wardrobe. Evan Rachel Wood, who plays Tracy, and Nikki Reed, who plays Evie, were fundamental in creating their characters and were actually close friends, so their intimate chemistry really shows on screen. Evan Rachel Wood's performance emphasizes that Tracy is more than just 13. She is smart, manipulative, has ulterior motives, and acts on how hurt she is deep down inside. One of the most memorable moments in the film is Tracy's breakdown.
A belly button ring! How else can I say it? I don't speak no other languages. Oh, you wanna know what that is? That is a tongue ring. No bra, no panties. No bra, no panties. Stop it. No bra, no panties.
Tracy's blatant disrespect, promiscuity, and lack of care for the words she says is not reflective of her true character, but reflective of the nasty things she feels deep down, as well as the lack of control she has in her life. The dialogue is like a mirror and promotes the idea that when humans feel complex things, They say words that are hurtful and confusing towards who they really are. Tracy is a dynamic character. A dynamic character is not only a character that changes throughout the film, but also a character that has been developed and made to be real. Tracy obviously goes through a distinct change. She changes from a good girl who plays with Barbies to a bad girl who does drugs, has sex, and lies to her mom. Obviously, Evie contributed to this change, but Tracy was always the one who dug herself in a deeper hole. For example, when Tracy meets up with Evie and a friend at that punk clothing store, Evie is shown shoplifting little things like a lighter and panties. Evie and the other friend purposely ignore and leave Tracy out, so Tracy goes outside to sit on a bench. The lady next to her is distractedly talking on the phone, so Tracy uses this opportunity to steal the lady's wallet out of her purse. She runs over to the two girls outside the clothing store and shows them, laughing about it as if she doesn't even feel bad. It can be inferred that Tracy did this for acceptance, but it wasn't necessary to steal some innocent woman's wallet to gain that acceptance. This only supports the fact that Tracy is extremely insecure and will do anything for approval, even if it's from people who isolate and bully her. Tracy and Evie together is like lighter fluid and fire. Both are bad, but when put together, it can be explosive. At the end of the film, Tracy and Evie are no longer friends because Tracy doesn't allow Evie to live with her and her family. Evie no doubt used Tracy because she was a manipulator who saw Tracy's admiration for her. Evie turns her back on Tracy, spreads nasty rumors about her, and ostracizes her from the friend group Tracy lost all respect to get into. Evie's childish actions and need for control over Tracy support that Evie is just as insecure and needing of validation. Tracy comes home to an intervention between Evie, Tracy's mom, and Evie's aunt about the two girls' unacceptable use of drugs and stealing. Evie's aunt pins the blame on Tracy and claims she has a bad influence on Evie because Evie obviously lied about her innocence.
Fuck! We were just goofing!
Tracy didn't hit her.
Yes, she did! I don't believe this shit! She hit me too!
Tracy later collapses on the kitchen floor, hysterically crying after Evie and her aunt angrily leave. Tracy's mother, in my opinion, is Tracy's rock. She holds Tracy even after all the terrible things Tracy has done to her mother. Tracy cuddles with her mom in her bed and falls asleep, like the child she internally is. This sequence of scenes show that Tracy was never different inside. She has acted different. Throughout the whole film, Tracy was always internally sensitive and needed extra love and attention. She has acted out to cope with those feelings. The film ends with a zoom-in shot of Tracy spinning on the playground merry-go-round as she screams. This shot shows that Tracy was just wanting to be that same little kid again, hence why she is at a playground. The spinning and screaming represent what her life feels like she can never get a grasp and it's all too overwhelming. Even though right before this scene she was cuddling with her mom like everything was okay again, she still feels that angst, anger, and frustration like always. Tracy is a complicated, dynamic character whose actions contradict her feelings. I was 13 once, and this movie made me reflect on those transformative years. My adolescent years consisted of hyper self-awareness, insecurity, confusion, and the overwhelming urge to belong. Although I wasn't as bad as Tracy and Evie, I did say a lot of things and do a lot of things that weren't me. I also fortunately did not experience the hurtful traumas Tracy and Evie had to, such as sexual and physical abuse as well as divorce. I loved Tracy's character. I empathized with her depression and self-image issues, and I also empathized with her vulnerability to peer pressure. It is refreshing to see a young character be portrayed as more than just an age or a phase, but as a real person with real emotions. Coming-of-age films like Perks of Being a Wallflower, Paper Towns, and The Duff all romanticize the teenage experiences. The teens in the named films and that of the coming-of-age genre talk with poetic caution, follow overly used film tropes, and don't have much depth in their cliché struggles. It is difficult sometimes to watch these films as a teenager because of how cringy the dialogue and acting can be. 13 stands out in its genre because it is raw, hyper-realistic, and even documentary-like. The film touches on toxic female relationships and how competitive they can be. Tracy was forced to grow up early due to her parents' divorce. Her mother struggled with money and a chaotic household over her head. In response to this trauma, Tracy hypersexualized herself and became a follower to negative influence, as many minors do when put in difficult situations. These themes are very realistic when it comes to girlhood. I love the seamless dialogue, the character depth, the realistic nature of young people, and the distinctive cinematography, as well as the evident inclusive directing between Catherine Hardwicke, Nikki Weed, and Evan Rachel Wood. In conclusion, 13 is a coming-of-age masterpiece. This film humanizes teenage girls, who are usually portrayed in film as either two-dimensional bimbos or a craftic manic pixie dream girl in favor of the male gaze. Tracy and Evie act the way that they do, not because they are bad people, but because they have had to endure bad things in life while navigating emerging girlhood. By the time this film ends, you want more. You want to know where these girls go, if they'll be okay, who will they become. The unanswered questions you would do anything to hear the answer to speaks for itself in the name of an amazing film.